My husband is currently on a vacation with his mistress, and I'm confronting them. I, a 37-year-old female, accidentally discovered last month that my husband, a 38-year-old male, has been using work trips as a pretext to engage in an affair with his co-worker, who is also married and lives across the country. When I say accidentally, I mean he sent me a screenshot of Amazon purchases for our children, and included at the bottom of the photo was a delivery address for this woman. Overwhelmed with concern, I checked his search history and email. It was all laid out there. I uncovered that his November trip was not for business but a romantic getaway, and his current trip is even more extravagant. A spa resort featuring couples massages, cooking classes, and monogrammed bathrobes from Etsy. A few days ago, he mailed her a box of gifts for Christmas. How thoughtful of him. He bought sexy lingerie, sent her money on Venmo, and even started planning a January trip to Las Vegas. Discovering all this infuriated me, but I maintained my composure. My plan: he departed this morning for his work trip, but before he left, I compiled all evidence of his affair. Over 4 weeks, I collected emails, credit card statements, and reservation confirmations. I composed a 10-page letter, placed it in an envelope, and taped it inside the lining of his suitcase. I intend to send a group text to him and his mistress right after they check in, wishing them enjoyment on their trip. I will also inform them that a letter awaits in his suitcase and that I am seeking a divorce. I included a special section in the letter specifically for her, and to ensure she reads it, I will be emailing her a copy as well. He is currently on a flight. I will send out my group text this evening. Stay tuned. Update 1. His flight landed an hour and a half ago. He promised to text me upon landing, but I haven't heard from him yet. I've sent him 2 texts. Both were delivered but remain unread. According to our phone records, he texted both me and her during his layover. His email doesn't show an Uber receipt from the final destination airport to his hotel, which leads me to believe she picked him up. I should have mentioned in my original post that she lives in the state he's visiting, so he flew there alone. I plan to send a group text to both him and his mistress in 2 hours, which will be 4 p.m. their time, coinciding with their check-in. Update 2. I sent pictures of our children, but he didn't respond. For your information, he is in the middle of the desert. My texts are turning green, indicating they're not being delivered as iMessages, which complicates my plan for a group text to him and his mistress. I need suggestions. Should I call the hotel and connect directly to their room? I've put so much effort into this. It has to happen tonight. Help. Update 3. My best friend has come over to help me through this. Interestingly, my texts are turning green, indicating they're undelivered. But when my friend sends a text, it's blue and gets delivered. He has blocked me. Perhaps it eases his guilt. The plan now is to call the hotel. I'll wait a few minutes after their check-in time before making the call. Please stand by. Update 4. As many of you predicted, he doesn't care. He had no answers to my questions, which was incredibly hurtful. But guess what? I have all the emotional and financial support I need, so I'm not mad. Every question I asked was met with silence, especially since his mistress was there. I suspect his responses will be different when he's alone with me. I've ensured that he won't be able to hurt me emotionally or financially because I have secured support from my family and friends. He can go to hell. Update 5. I called his hotel room and ended up speaking to his mistress, which made me lose my composure. He called me a few minutes later, showing no empathy whatsoever. I'm shocked, yet not surprised. He agreed that a divorce was necessary and didn't contest anything. I expected him to be upset. He wasn't, but that's okay. I started packing his things, and with the help of some great friends, moved everything to the garage. Good riddance, I suppose. The morning after. This morning, I woke up feeling shattered. My house is a mess from my rampage yesterday, ripping photos off the walls, throwing his belongings into piles on the floor, and breaking random objects in anger. After a night's sleep, my thoughts are somewhat clearer as I reflect on our conversation yesterday. He sounded different on the phone. That wasn't the man I knew. But then, who was the man I've known? Everything was a lie. The only thing he seemed concerned about on the phone was seeing the kids, which is, of course, okay. He should want to see his children. However, he refused to answer any of my questions or admit to anything. I feel his lack of remorse was due to the presence of his mistress. Had I confronted him at home, his reaction would have been different. I expect a different man when he returns home Monday night. Additionally, during my conversation with the mistress, I learned she is recently separated. I called my mom, which was difficult. While she and my dad have always been supportive, admitting that I made a poor choice in a spouse felt like admitting failure. Was this all the result of a mistake I made 13 years ago? Honestly, it doesn't matter now. I have 2 days to clear my house of his belongings. Who do I tell? His father? His mother? His best friend? His work colleagues? I wish there was a manual for this because I'm at a loss. Despite all my preparation, I still feel humiliated. Fortunately, he didn't take his house keys when he left, so there's no need to change the locks. I'll remove his keys and send him on his way. I don't plan on being here when he returns Monday night. The doors will be locked, his belongings will be in the garage, and he can have his people talk to mine. I never want to see him again. Preparing for the return. My friends and family have been incredible. I'm so fortunate to have such supportive people in my life. They came over yesterday to help me move all his clothes to the garage. His collectibles have been packed up and are awaiting appraisal. It took a long time and left me exhausted, but it was necessary. I doubt he expects me to have taken such drastic steps to remove him from my life. Because I was so emotional during our confrontation, he might think I'll want to reconcile. No chance of that. His flight lands just before 10 p.m. tonight. When he returns, he'll find the doors locked. He told me over the phone he was just coming to get his car and leave, and I intend to hold him to that. I should have mentioned earlier that the house is in my name only. He had no credit when we were house hunting, so everything is in my maiden name and was purchased by me. Health insurance, car insurance, cell phones, utilities, all in my name. The only thing in his name is his car. I think he's starting to realize this could all work against him. I don't want a messy divorce. I'm willing to hear his demands and try to meet halfway on as many issues as possible. It's clear he doesn't care anymore, so I'll do my best to detach emotionally and approach this as a business transaction. The dust has settled. It's been a few days since his return. For a man who meticulously planned a secret getaway with his mistress, he made no plans for his return home. He's been living in the basement since Monday. I allowed him to watch the children open gifts on Christmas, but he's since retreated back to the basement. We've contacted 3 mediators and have appointments next week to begin the mediation process. It's definitively over. We had a discussion when he returned, and he actually suggested reconciliation. I couldn't help but laugh uncontrollably. He tried to shift the blame, claiming our marriage had been over for a long time. That was news to me. His decision to have an affair was selfish and avoidant. He didn't want to face a difficult conversation about counseling or divorce, finding this path easier and more enjoyable. Let's face it, he enjoys the attention from 2 women. Well, I'm no longer playing that game. She can have him, and what a prize he is. I've been amicable about discussing the terms of our separation. My main concern is her. He may continue to see her, and I have questions about her character. What kind of person engages in an affair with a married man, fully aware he has children? When I confronted her over the phone and posed this question, she was silent. I asked if she felt sorry, and the line might as well have been dead. I don't want someone like that around my children. People who show no remorse, especially when they're in the wrong, are not kind people. I found solace in friends and family, and I'm grateful for everyone's recommendation of Chump Lady. I'm halfway through the book, have browsed the website, and find it incredibly helpful. Thanks again to everyone. I'm overwhelmed by the support. To the trolls who think I'm an unfit and inattentive wife, cheaters cheat because they choose to. Where is the fault? According to the books and advice about cheaters, they all echo the same sentiment. It's not you, they made a choice. My soon-to-be ex-husband insists that things were bad between us. While I don't think we were the perfect couple like Pam and Jim from The Office or Lucy and Ricky from I Love Lucy, I believe things were generally good. This ordeal has prompted me to reflect on who I am, who I've been, and who I want to become. Could I have made changes? Certainly. Was I perfect? Far from it. But my decisions and actions never jeopardized our marriage. They were more akin to sacrifices, and now these sacrifices are being thrown back in my face, and I'm being labeled as neglectful. Is this all about a need for attention, a narcissistic desire to be adored? He and his affair partner are currently basking in their honeymoon phase, taking vacations, having late-night phone calls like teenagers, exchanging gifts, etc. But what happens when reality sets in? When she notices his short temper with children, his obliviousness to household chores, or his financial irresponsibility due to frivolous spending? While it's no longer my concern, I'm certain his affair partner will take issue with these behaviors. Perhaps then, she will find herself in the same predicament I've endured for a decade. Should she pick up the slack, or ignore her responsibilities to cater to his needs? Despite being the one engaging in an affair and squandering money on someone else, he claims I'm at fault. Perhaps I am to some extent. But what about the years I spent cleaning up after him? Maybe if I had engaged in 2-hour conversations with him every night, things would be different. But honestly, I'm relieved to be where I am now. Looking back, I realize how underappreciated and neglected I was. All these years, I thought I was being helpful, but I was merely being exploited, and this affair is just another example. A word of advice to those who find themselves constantly cleaning up messes, making excuses, and shielding their spouses from consequences. Stop. Stop right now. I've learned that all this helping only teaches them how to manipulate you further. Draw a line in the sand. Prepare for the discomfort when they begin to struggle with the realities of life. But most importantly, do not lose yourself. I lost myself years ago, and it's not a place you want to be. Mediation. We had our first mediation session via Zoom yesterday. It was surprisingly amicable, but only because I'm eager to move on and avoid conflict. He seems to want nothing, not the house, the furniture, nor his entitled share of my pension. He just wants to conclude this chapter. As I've been decluttering the house, I've offered him various items, but he's declined everything. I suspect that once our marriage is officially over, he'll pack up his belongings and move across the country to be with her. While I no longer wish to be married to him, it's heartbreaking to think he'll be playing a fatherly role to her children while ours are left without a father. The thought makes me furious. The man who himself was abandoned by his father is now repeating history, something he swore he'd never do. Yet here we are, faced with another lie. Despite this, I find some comfort in knowing that their honeymoon phase won't last forever. Reality will eventually catch up to them, and she'll see that he's more of a burden than a benefit. While I wish him well, our children deserve more than a part-time father who only shows up on holidays and for brief visits. They'll miss having their dad at basketball games, scout meetings, birthday parties, and school plays. Meanwhile, her children will have both their biological father and him. Life isn't fair, and sadly, my boys will have to learn that lesson sooner than I'd hoped. He's gone. My soon-to-be ex-husband left yesterday morning to visit her. I encouraged him to go. I had no desire to spend New Year's Eve with him, and our friends, who are part of our COVID-safe circle, didn't want to see him either. He booked a flight just 30 minutes after I suggested he leave. My only condition was that he return for this weekend, as it's my birthday, and I desperately need a day to myself. After watching the kids alone for 3 weekends, while he visited his mistress, I thought I deserved at least that much. However, while boarding his flight, he texted to inform me that he won't be back for my birthday. He claimed that when he booked the flight, he scheduled his return for the evening of my birthday. According to him, changing the flight would put him on standby, cost $1,000, require taking a red-eye flight, etc. A barrage of excuses. He seemed to forget that I can also access the internet, and found that flights were available for less than $300 with his airline. When confronted, he insisted those flights weren't available at the time of booking. A blatant lie. He promised to sort it out, but I just want honesty. If he doesn't want to be here for my birthday or spend the day with his children, he should just say so. I can't force him to be a parent. I pointed out the available and affordable flights. The decision to rebook is his. That's all I can do, right? Stay tuned for an update on his return this weekend. New Year's Eve nightmare. It was 12:40 a.m. on New Year's Eve, and there was still no call from him. I was angry for no other reason than I had explained to the kids that even though Daddy wasn't with us, he would call at midnight to talk to them and wish them a happy new year. I was made to appear as a liar. So I texted my soon-to-be ex-husband, and his excuse was, they are with their friends. I didn't want to bother them. Excuse me? Bother them? You mean you didn't want your kids to bother you, is what you are really saying? If I were across the country on New Year's Eve without my kids, I would have called and done the countdown with them via FaceTime. I think most parents would. But not him. He said, if you had told me that you told the kids I'd call, then I would have. He tried to spin this on me, that I created this mess. Why do I have to tell you that you need to call your children at midnight? This small act said a lot to me. Our children are not a priority. I guess he didn't want to ruin his perfect vacation at his new girlfriend's house with her children. He has a nice new family now. Today is my birthday, and he returns this evening. I told him in my New Year's Eve text that I will speak to him on the 12th, our next mediation meeting, because I'm done. I tried to be civil for the kids, but he is not putting forth the effort for them. Liar, liar, pants on fire. The past few days have been strange. We rarely talk, a decision on both our parts. And when we do, it's about mediation, plans moving forward, or the kids. We have been civil and are communicating well about those items. We are also friendly in front of the children, as not to upset them. The situation is strange because we are getting along. There is no arguing. It's a shared focus to just get through mediation and divorce. That's fine by me. Last night, while I was cleaning the kitchen, I heard him on the phone in the basement. I guess he didn't realize the door was left open by one of the children. Not wanting to be a part of the drama anymore, I went to close the door. At that point, I heard him tell her how crazy I have been acting. Excuse me, we don't speak, and when we do, it's very civil. How is that crazy? Well, he proceeded to tell her about a conversation we had, and he lied about everything. While the conversation part was true, he told her I exploded. I was in a rage, I was crying, etc. None of that was true. He explained how he laughed in my face at my rage. Also, not true because there was no rage. I had told him a while back before the New Year's Eve debacle that I would start dating eventually, and he proceeded to tell her that I was bragging about guys I'm meeting. So far from the truth. I slammed the basement door. I'm sure he knows I heard, so I ask, why the need to lie and make me a villain? We aren't staying together. I have no reason to fight with you anymore. That's why we are paying a mediator. Why start lying to your new girlfriend that you love? How is that a good way to start a relationship? I don't know what is happening here. This is my concern. This woman and he are in love and want to start a life together. Okay, that's fine. God bless and congrats. But this woman only knows me by the stories, which I'm assuming are all lies. He has told her about me. If he does move across the country to be with her, how can I trust a woman who hates me because of misinformation to treat my children properly? I don't care if she hates me personally. I'll still sleep fine at night. But now I'm worried about sending my kids in the summer to stay with them. I want to confront him about this, but I know I can't. Maybe it's not that I can't, but I don't know how. Also, he has told no one we are separated and definitely has not told people why. How come? You initiated this, you cheated, you are happy now, so why can't you tell people? He told his father that he was bringing the kids alone to visit him because he and I weren't seeing eye to eye at the moment. What? I would assume he's afraid to face the music, or is just finding comfort in the little love bubble he has created. He chooses not to face reality. He has yet to look for an apartment for when the divorce is finalized, but has booked another flight out to see her for Valentine's Day. He is refusing to face reality, and it's so frustrating. Mediation and empty promises. Yesterday was our second mediation appointment. While it was amicable, there was some obvious tension. The tension was not on my end, but more on his. Let me explain. During our first mediation, we brought up the topic that he might move out of state. At yesterday's meeting, I asked what we would do about custody if he moves to this particular state. When I mentioned the state by name, the mediator was confused. This prompted her to ask him why he chose a state that is so far away. His answer? Well, then silence. He couldn't articulate the fact that he was leaving to be with his girlfriend. I had to finally chime in, realizing we are paying by the hour, that he was moving to be with his girlfriend. I realized later that this was the first time he had semi-confessed to having an affair and a girlfriend to anyone. If you love this person so much, why can't you just say it out loud? That whole situation confuses me. Anyway, when it comes to finances, I will be fine. He will also be fine. He will have enough to do what he needs, and so will I. We have agreed to a physical custody scenario that allows him weekend and dinner visits. Fine by me. I want my boys to have their father. But the situation becomes a bit more difficult when he moves. While he said yesterday he plans to stay here at least a year, I doubt that will actually happen. When he does move across the country, he wishes to return for one weekend of every month to see the boys. Again, I'm fine with this scenario, but where will he stay that weekend? He has no family. Will he just be taking the boys to a hotel? Again, I don't think he has actually thought this through. This is a problem we will tackle when he does decide to move. Lastly, the mediator said it could take about 2 months to finalize everything. He and I spoke after the session to go over some facts and figures, and I brought up the tentative finalization date of our marriage. I told him how 2 months is a good amount of time to save some money and find an apartment, to which he agreed. I also reminded him about his promise not to return to visit her until our divorce is finalized or he has a place to live. He quickly became frustrated, telling me that he knew and tried to shut down the conversation. I told him I'm happy that we are on the same page, but I'm not budging. If you leave while you still live here, you cannot come back. That is something we both agreed to. Now the big question remains, who does he break a promise with? Obviously, it's a win-win for me. Stay home and help me with the kids while you save more than $500 and move out quickly, or leave to visit her and I get you out of the house sooner. I'm happy with either decision. I just want to move on with my life and enjoy my moments with my children. Out for a swim. When I took this dive into the Reddit community, I had no idea where I would land. I thought my feet would hit shallow ground, and I would be ankle deep on the banks in an uncomfortable swimsuit, all alone. But to my surprise, this deep ocean of Reddit readers has engulfed me into their warm waters, and I am surrounded by a sea of support. For this, I am thankful. I am also so touched by the droves of people who have reached out for advice or offered their own experiences as lessons to be learned. To the ones seeking advice, I tell them, I am not an expert swimmer. I am merely doggy paddling through this sea of hurt and confusion. Please don't use me as a sign of strength, because the truth is, I am not strong. I am you. I am the woman who reads because she is suspicious of late-night phone calls her husband takes. I am the spouse who has shouldered the entire family and is in desperate need of support. I am the woman who misses affection from her husband, who is next to her in bed every night. I am you. To those people who have yet to catch their partner cheating but are suspicious, trust your gut. Cheating is a coward's choice, so be braver than them and face the truth. To the spouse who is the fixer and takes on every challenge, take a step back. When you help, even with good intention, you are actually just hurting yourself. To the spouse who has tried everything to receive physical attention from their partner, but to no avail, their affection is probably going somewhere else. These are lessons I wish I could have told myself months, if not years ago. Listen to me, or just listen to you. To the sharks in water who call me a bad mom, a crazy bitch, fake, or even just think I'm out of my mind, you will find no blood in this water. So it's best you move on and find a thread where the original poster will chum the water for you. It's so very easy to read and judge. This I understand. I just hope that if this ever happens to you, you will be as brave, logical, and composed as you expect others to be. If not, you will find sharks circling you as well. So I hope you are as strong of a swimmer as you claim to be. If you are still reading, my saga survival continues. Our final mediation papers will arrive this week. We were able to settle everything at the last meeting on January 12th, and the documents just need our signature. After that, the divorce papers need to be served and filed with the county. Then we await our court date, which will be done via Zoom. Yes, a bit anticlimactic, but it will still serve its purpose of divorcing. He has started finally to look for an apartment, but nothing is to his satisfaction. Maybe he is being picky, or maybe he is comfortable living in the basement. Either way, once the divorce papers are stamped, he needs to be gone. He has started making phone calls to her during the day, and I can hear him giggling downstairs. I'm happy he is happy, I really am. That isn't passive-aggressive. I know I will be happy one day too. He just got there first, and that's okay. I feel like my life is in limbo right now. I can't move forward because I'm chained to the past. I'm hoping his move will be soon. I suspect he wants out for February 1st, so he can go visit her for Valentine's Day. I hope for his sake, and mine, that he makes his deadline. I will update again after I receive the mediation paperwork and divorce papers are served. I'm sure that will stir up a lot of thought and emotion, so I'm certain it will be a doozy. Till then, I'll keep doggy paddling. Souvenirs. If you have been following along, then you know there was a chance he would leave for Valentine's Day to visit her. Well, he left this morning. He told the kids, "I'm going," as he walked out the door, leaving me to explain a few hours later that he had to leave for work when they started asking for him. I have learned that I can't have expectations. Just because I would try to be more honest with the kids doesn't mean he would. I was really proud of the fact that I didn't even engage him in the discussions about going. Yes, I had loudly vocalized some feelings a week ago when he told me he was going, but I have not engaged him about it since. All I asked was for his flight information so that I would know when to expect him back. He did not provide this information. Maybe he thinks I'm not entitled to it. Either way, he left, and I was fine. While we had the conversation multiple times in which he agreed that he would not visit her again until he had an apartment, he has reneged on that agreement. Shocker. He claims that he has every right to be here, which he does legally, and he can do as he pleases. He put a down payment on an apartment a few days ago, but says he doesn't know when he is moving. What? The bills he pays in the house are less than the child support he will have to pay, so I think his decision to stay longer might be a financial one. I've offered him any piece of furniture he wants in the house. I even offered to pay for half of the cost of bunk beds for the boys. I just need him to leave. I have no idea why he is dragging his feet. But I learned through a mutual friend and former work colleague of theirs that she recently had COVID. When I say recently, I mean the Board of Health from her state said she could stop quarantining 3 days ago. But what about her kids that are in the home? Were they living there during her quarantine? Are they positive? Perhaps they are asymptomatic. Will my soon-to-be ex-husband be bringing me and our children home a COVID souvenir? I'm livid. COVID insensitivity. For all those messaging me with concern and for updates, I apologize for my tardiness. It has been a heartbreaking 2 weeks. To amend for my absence, I will be posting 2 updates tonight. Let me start from the beginning. My soon-to-be ex-husband left for his getaway on February 12th and did not return until February 15th. During his blissful vacation, my family and I suffered a great loss of one of our most beloved members to COVID. I was a mess. Everyone I love was devastated. I called my soon-to-be ex-husband on February 13th and told him the prognosis was not good. It was loud where he was. There were children yelling. He informed me he was outside with her kids. Wow. I can't remember the last time he took our children outside, but I digress. I shouldn't have expected him to care about my bad news, but he was concerned. I guess there is still a decent bone somewhere in him. That concern would not last long, though. Upon his return, as he usually does, he schedules a COVID test. He scheduled one for 4 days after his return, but due to snow in our area, he did not go. This I understand, the weather cannot be controlled. Then he told me he rescheduled for 4 days later and then does not go. When I questioned him, his response was, "I feel fine." I suspected since she probably got a negative COVID test shortly before his arrival, he felt safe in not getting one. Not until Monday, March 1st, did he finally get tested. A full 2 weeks later. Why? You know my family just suffered a terrible loss to COVID. How could you be so reckless and insensitive? The insensitive question is rhetorical. I obviously know the answer already. The real monster. The day is approaching. Large boxes are being delivered to the house daily, containing new furniture to be assembled. The sounds of packing tape being ripped from the spool flood the house every evening. He's moving out. I'm overjoyed. I'm so happy that I have actually started engaging him in conversation. Yes, we have to chat to figure out child support and scheduling, but now I'm so ecstatic he's leaving. I even ask about his move. I feel like a kid at Christmas. While we were discussing his move, what he would be taking from the home and the schedule for seeing the children, I asked if he planned to visit her. No, this wasn't me prying. We need to set an overnight and weekend schedule for the kids, and I was hoping to be accommodating to any trips he had planned. But then my curiosity got the best of me, but for a good reason. Our children. I asked if she plans to come here to meet the kids. He replied in the affirmative and said she might come. Well, good for you both, but I would like to meet her before she meets the children. He went silent. I could tell he was rolling thoughts around in his head, or perhaps trying to figure a way out of this situation, but he came up empty. He honestly wanted to know why I needed to meet her. Excuse me, come again? You really think I would let my children spend time with someone I didn't know? I'm the mother that interviews babysitters. Why would you think I wouldn't want to meet her? He claims to be worried that I won't be civil, but he knows me better than that. I have nothing to gain by being rude to her. It's just ammo. I refuse to play that game. Plus, why would I care? I don't want him. That's your prize now, honey, congrats. But he recognizes that he can't stop me in this. I have every right to meet her as he would to meet someone I am dating. When it comes to the kids, we can't keep secrets. I think the real concern about us meeting is this. She will realize I'm not the horrible monster he made me out to be. His plans of assassinating my character to build himself up or to receive pity from her. And the constant gaslighting will be revealed. She will see that I am not pining over him, quarreling with him, and that I'm genuinely a good person. Maybe she will see that he might be the real monster. Like father, like son. My soon-to-be ex-husband was quiet. More quiet than usual, almost sulking. I don't understand his motivations anymore and what he actually cares about, so I left it alone. Not my business to care and comfort anymore, right? That evening, after the children went to bed, he sat alone at the dining room table. It was as if he was waiting for me to address him. I did not sulk. That's your issue, not mine. After he received no attention from me, he made the big announcement. He claims he told everyone what happened between us, including his father. Then, oddly enough, he started to cry, full ugly tears. I thought these were tears of embarrassment and shame. He then proceeded to tell me the conversation he had with his father was the first time his dad has actually acted like a father towards him. While that statement in itself is unsettling, it is also confusing. I'm guessing his father supported him? I know if this was my son, I'd support him, but also have some strong words about how he went about this and how he should probably proceed in the future. But it looks like he received 100% support, so while I understand, I don't understand. Something was wrong here. Last week was my youngest son's birthday. I had asked my soon-to-be ex-husband if he would like to invite his father over for cake. He texted him several times with no response. He learned through their conversation last night that his father was in another state for work. Okay, understandable. But here is the kicker. He went away, with a new girl he is dating. Why is this strange, you ask? He just asked his wife of 30 years for a divorce at the end of January. So this makes me think, is adultery a learned behavior? My father-in-law abandoned my soon-to-be ex-husband when he was 9 years old, the same age as my eldest son now. Is there a pattern here, or is all this just a crazy coincidence? I could not help myself. I messaged my mother-in-law. She confirmed they were divorcing. I asked if there was any infidelity, and she claims to her knowledge, no. But I know better. She said that my father-in-law started to withdraw from her. He started picking fights for no reason and avoided interacting with her last fall. Then in January, he said he wanted a divorce so that he could find himself. A man who is in his 60s, close to retirement, needs to find himself? Sounds like a cop-out to me. But now that I've learned there is another woman, which my mother-in-law does not know, I understand that this bloodline of men are truly selfish and unfit partners. I know all the comments will tell me to tell my mother-in-law about the infidelity on his part, and I plan on doing so. I just need a little more information before I break the news to her. Moving trucks and spilled tea. It happened. Finally, he's gone. My basement is so empty and quiet, it echoes. The day he moved, a box truck pulled up to my house, and my children ran to the window to watch. I didn't know how to distract them, as I was working. I was able to pull them away from the window with the promise of treats once they were at the table to do schoolwork. My youngest, though, would not budge. After 45 minutes of loading, the truck pulled away, and my soon-to-be ex-husband drove off. My youngest came away from the window looking sad. I immediately talked to him and tried to comfort him. After a few moments, he asked, "Is the truck coming back?" I was confused. I told him that we were staying here and no one else was moving. Apparently, he wasn't upset that Daddy was leaving. He just wanted the truck. I'm not sure how I should feel about this. I made appointments with a child therapist for both my kids. While they seem fine now, I'm not sure what the future holds for their mental state. I'm afraid this will be repressed, and issues will arise down the road. His friends have been reaching out to me. Now that they know what happened, I'm getting text and Facebook messages asking how I am. I know in reality they are just being nosy. They may care a little, but they just want me to spill the tea. Well, I put the kettle on. I wasn't surprised to learn that my soon-to-be ex-husband wasn't completely honest with them. He failed to mention traveling during a pandemic to visit her. I guess that would make him look reckless? Selfish? Idiotic? The wives of his friends are in shock. They considered my soon-to-be ex-husband a friend that could be trusted, a man who had it all together. Basically, they trusted my soon-to-be ex-husband would be a good influence on their husbands. Boy, were they wrong. Concerning my mother-in-law, I have not told her. This is because I don't have any real information. What I did tell her, though, was to do some investigating to see if he is having an affair. This would be to her benefit, as her state has adultery laws. They are still legally married and living in the same house, so to my knowledge, the law applies. But she seems hesitant. I think she is just afraid to find out the truth, and then she has to look at him every day. This I understand. No spouse should have to experience that. I know it was gut-wrenching for me, and perhaps many of you reading can relate as well. I just don't want to be the one to tell her. Perhaps this is because I'm still upset I had to find out on my own, and my soon-to-be ex-husband was too much of a coward to come clean. Why should a cheating spouse get the thrill of cheating and be relieved of the burden of having to confess? First update. Final fight with insight. Before the move, my soon-to-be ex-husband and I had one last argument. But in this argument, a big piece of information was leaked on his behalf. He demanded to know why we failed as partners. I'm not sure why he is asking me why we failed if he is the one that cheated. I gave him the same reasoning I had given him months ago when we talked about this. He said that answer was nonsense. How can my opinion or insight be nonsense? Let me explain. My soon-to-be ex-husband and I were great before kids and responsibilities. But when other people, our children, and responsibilities, work, bills, house upkeep, came into play, things changed. Honestly, he didn't like that our honeymoon phase was over. That's what he loves the most, and why his shiny new relationship is so appealing. He didn't like that our money for nights out now went to plumbers, school clothes, and the gas bill. Was this another case of being a narcissist and needing all the attention? Perhaps so. Could I have done better to make him a priority? Probably, but then something else of importance would have been neglected. Perhaps if he had helped me carry the load and took more responsibility, there would be more time for us. I was the parent that went to every school function. I took the kids food shopping with me on a Saturday so he could have some relaxed time. I made all the meals. I did the doctor appointments. I called the repairman. I bought the clothing. I cut coupons. I tended to sick children. I gave baths. I made plans to visit his family, etc. Long story short, the list of responsibilities he had was minimal or close to non-existent. I just always thought we would, more like I would, sacrifice and work now only to relax and enjoy later. Maybe that was my mistake. But I showed my love for him daily and always did for him. I did more so he could do less and enjoy his free time and be happy and relaxed. Because when he was stressed, the whole house was tense. But that's a story for another day. What this conversation did shed light on was his reasoning for talking to her. The reason I suspected: attention. He confessed she gave him attention whenever he wanted it. Everything was about him. Sure, that's easy to do when your relationship is simply text messages and phone calls. But what happens when it's real and daily? I asked him, what happens when he moves there and she starts putting her children first? Or her work becomes a priority? Or they struggle with bills? You know, real life and all. He had no answers. I asked what happens when this fantasy long-distance romance becomes a tough, daily reality. Again, I don't think he thought that far in advance. Can he stay on his best boyfriend behavior? Can everything stay magical when the world stops revolving around him? Looks like he will find out soon enough. I understand I will probably receive criticism for this post. People will say I neglected him, so he had no other option but to leave. But let's not overlook the fact that he neglected everything in our life, so the slack was mine. This story is not new. Some spouses have been doing this for ages. And what is their reward? The spouse they tried so desperately to give a better life to leaves. Is this manipulation? Is this me trying so hard to make everything easier for everyone else that I sabotage myself? All I wanted was an equal partner, but that's something that I never got. Mediation meltdown. So, after weeks, no, correction, months, our mediation paperwork is completed. What a relief. Or so I thought. While we had talked previously and agreed on everything, there was one section we never mentioned which our mediator added. It reads as follows: new partners. Each party agrees that they will introduce a new partner to the children only if she is in a committed relationship for at least X months. Each parent will inform the other party prior to introducing a new partner to the children. While that wasn't something that was discussed, I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. My soon-to-be ex-husband does not think that statement needs to be included in our legal agreement. His statement was, "That's a conversation between you and I that a court or judge has no business being in." While I see his point, my point was this. We are divorcing. Nothing can be left to a handshake promise. We could agree on something verbally, and because we both have legal custody, we could renege on the agreement and deny access to new partners. Having this in black and white protects us both. He swore he wasn't signing it until that portion was removed. But if the mediator included it, then this must be common practice to do in a divorce. So this prompted me to ask, when does she plan to come here to visit? That must be the motivation, right? She must be planning a trip here soon, and he had plans to introduce her to the kids. He claims there are no plans for her to visit our area. Well, if that's the case, what's the harm in waiting 3 months? But let me be clear. To everyone reading, my motivation in this is the well-being of my children. Their father has just left. They need to become accustomed to this new way of life with 2 homes and visiting hours before we complicate things more with a girlfriend or boyfriend. I've also made appointments for them next month. That was the soonest I could get, with a psychologist to help them process this divorce. Now is not the time to make this more complex. Every parent wants to nurture and protect their children. His affair partner waited 5 months to introduce him to her children. Why is it not okay for us to wait too then? Changes. I had to sit down this past week and really think. What is more important to me, my pride or moving on? I said from the beginning that I want him to be a father, to be involved and active in their lives. So we made some changes last night. After a talk plus an argument, followed by more talking, we altered our custody agreement to give him more time with the kids. I know from the past 10 years that he has never been an active father. Perhaps now he feels the need to be. Either way, I'm hopeful this decision will be a good one for the boys. Now, I know many of you may say he is undeserving, but I am making this decision and not regretting it because I know it is temporary. He will be moving in a year or so. Of this, I have no doubt. Once he packs up his belongings and drives across the country, our arrangement will change. I'm a bit upset the children will become used to having him around only to have him leave in a year. That was a big motivator in my reluctance to agree to this custody change. I have tried to make the best decisions for my boys, and I feel like my soon-to-be ex-husband is just concerned with winning. I also got him to agree to put our new terms for when he leaves, including the altered child support payments, in black and white in our mediation paperwork. I think the delay by our mediator in supplying the paperwork led to him overthinking and wanting to change the agreement. He agreed in January, but now claims he never agreed to it. So I guess our mediator just created these terms which we discussed out of thin air. Okay, sure, buddy. I also think his girlfriend chirped in his ear a bit about what he should do. I'm confident he told her what a wonderful and involved father he has been over the years, and I'm sure that prompted her to encourage him for more custody. Little does she know, my soon-to-be ex-husband doesn't even have car seats in his car because he never takes them anywhere. He doesn't know their doctors' names. He doesn't know their quirks, and he has zero patience for them. But I'm sure he has claimed to be Father of the Year. Maybe the increase in custody will prompt him to move sooner? He took the boys for an overnight last week, and when he dropped them off, he was grumpy. He claimed all he did was cater to them, didn't have time to eat, and barely got any work done all day. Oh, you mean like me every day since you left? He's not prepared. But it's okay. I'm done sheltering him. These are your kids, and now you can see what it takes to care for them and balance everyday life. Maybe now he will see why I never had the time or energy to cater to him. Boundaries. Last week was our final mediation meeting. My soon-to-be ex-husband claims that the mediation we had in January was not the final. I was happy that our mediator confirmed in the meeting that January's meeting was the final, and his changes are an addition. Either way, it's done. Mediation completed. Now starts the actual divorce process. I told him that I'd like to start this ASAP, and his response was, I know you want to rush through this, but this takes time and can't be done when you want it to be done. So hold on, let me get this straight. You were the one who cheated for months and has a girlfriend, but me wanting to complete our divorce paperwork makes me the one that is rushing to end the marriage? No, sir, you have rushed to end it. Actually, you ended it. Now we are just completing the paperwork, but the marriage was dissolved in September when you started sending her flowers. Or perhaps in October when you started flying to her state during a pandemic to have sex. So, pardon me if I'd like to cut the cord legally. You have already severed it emotionally. Even though we aren't legally divorced, he has been taking the kids 3, 4 nights a week on a rotating schedule. Truth be told, I'm happy he is stepping up, but my children don't like it. When I tell them they are going to daddy's, they cry. Because my ex lives in an apartment building and my children have grown up in a single-family home, my oldest son calls his apartment a hotel, not a house. When they are there, they miss me, and I feel terrible. On one of their first evenings there, my youngest called me from his iPad 4 times. I wanted to give them space to be with their dad, but after the 5th phone call, I answered. My soon-to-be ex-husband was on the computer working. He showed me on the video call, and my youngest was left in his room to play. He was bored and seeking attention. I told him to play with daddy when he was done with his call, and I would see them soon. After we hung up, I got an angry text from my ex, telling me we need to practice boundaries when we have the children and respect each other's time with them. The children were now asking him when they come home. He said to me, this is their home as well, and they should know that. A few things about this. 1. If you were paying attention to the kids, they would not call me. I understand you are working, but I work from home as well, and they are never calling you while I am here. I have to tell the kids to call you, and even then they don't want to. 2. Boundaries? You have been coming to the house every night on my days to say goodnight to them. So, you can come to my home and see them for 45 minutes every night, but I can't answer my son's 5th phone call to me. Here's some boundaries. You can't come here anymore. He is very regretful he brought up this argument because it hurts him more than me. I have no problems playing fair, but you have to play as well. 3. If you want your kids to feel like your house is their home as well, then you need to tell them, not me. Okay, I get it, but they don't. So you need to have that conversation with them, not me. I have just resolved myself to the fact that I will always be the bad guy, the gymnast. I've always been flexible. Well, physically not so much with age, but being flexible in situations has never been a problem. My soon-to-be ex-husband fought me on a 50-50 custody agreement, one in which I agreed to. Our original agreement was for a 65-35 split, which gave him every other weekend, plus a few dinner-time visits in between. For someone who has never been an active father, this should have been enough. Apparently, now he thinks he's super dad and wishes to take the lead. This would have been helpful years ago, but better late than never. He contacts me the other day, telling me he will be picking up the kids for 2 overnights this week. Mind you, he is supposed to have the kids 2 days one week, and then 5 days the next week. I tell him that he can have the kids over the weekend as well. This is when he tells me he has several work trips and personal trips to see his girlfriend coming up, so he needs me to be flexible with the visits. Flexible? I thought you were the I need to see my kids more dad now. The dad who needed more time and less time and child support for me with his children. Where did that guy go? The month of April, he has had the kids for 8 nights total. And when I mention this isn't 50, I'm the bad guy and need to be understanding of his work and personal life. Excuse me, I have work and a personal life too. Well, not really a personal life, but I hope to soon. Why do I have to be flexible to you and you aren't to me? I told him I offered him the 65-35 split that would allow him more free time, and he didn't want it. He said I was steamrolling him into taking that agreement, and he wasn't happy with the time he'd have with the kids. Touched that he wanted more time with the kids, I agreed to this, and now that it's in black and white, I have to have the kids more and receive less child support because you can't keep up with the deal. You wanted? I think in all honesty it wasn't about seeing his kids. It was about not giving me what I asked for. He says I rely too much on our agreement and that it's just a guideline. We don't need to live and die by it. But I think we do. It's a legal document about our children and our assets. So, if we don't live and die by it, will you stop paying child support? Or maybe decide that you want things that are mine? It's just a piece of paper, right? For a man who led a double life, had an affair, has a girlfriend, and wanted out of this house, he sure doesn't seem to want to face the reality of what a divorce actually is. So, if he doesn't take the kids for his 50-50 visits, what are my options? Start this process again with another agreement? Take him to court? I think perhaps my best option is to not be flexible. And when the numbers don't add up, we go back to court. I don't see any other option. Transparency. This past weekend was Mother's Day. It was a strange day this year, but still oddly more enjoyable than previous years. My soon-to-be ex-husband has been taking the kids on the schedule I created, and so far, no issues. He has yet to pay me any child support, but I will give him until the 15th before I make a stink about that. The boys were with him over the weekend, but he returned them on Sunday so I could spend the day with them. I asked him while he was here if he called his grandmother yet. His grandmother is the only family, besides his equally unfaithful father, that he speaks to. He told me he spoke to her and that he told her that we have separated. I was shocked. This was a big step. I knew it would be hard to tell her, and the news would give her a heart attack. He said she was upset and shared some of their conversation with me. He told me he did not tell her why we split, only that we had. While not the whole truth, I was happy to see that he took this tough step. Fast forward a few hours later. His mother calls me. Her and I have a fairly good relationship, but my soon-to-be ex-husband is holding a grudge over things from the past and refuses to speak to her. I had asked if she heard the news from her mother. She was confused. Well, it turns out it was all a lie. He never told his grandmother. The conversation he said he had was never actually had. I speak to his sister as well and find out after 13 years together that this, run away with a girl who'll give me more attention, is his MO. She told me that before me, he lied to his girlfriend of 4 years that he was going to spend time with his dad, and it turns out he went away for the weekend with another girl. Now, isn't that something? My lawyer will be serving him the divorce papers next week. When I told him for the second time that I was hiring a lawyer to do the papers and did not want us to do them ourselves, he got angry. He accused me of wanting to try something shady. No, sir. You have been shady enough for the both of us. When I reminded him that I've already brought this up to him and that I have been getting quotes from lawyers, he accused me of not being transparent. You're kidding, right? He will always be the victim, never wrong and always right. The breakdown. My soon-to-be ex-husband had the children this past Friday, Saturday, and then again Monday, Wednesday. I went to pick them up today after work, and that's when it happened. The breakdown. My soon-to-be ex-husband started to cry. He lost it. Apparently, for the past 3 days, all our children did was ask to go home. They cried and constantly asked, "How long?" He tried to tell them that this was their home as well, but they wouldn't hear of it. Now, part of me feels badly. It must be terrible to have your children reject you. But on the flip side, he's never been the parent he is now. He takes them places, plays with them, reads to them, bathes them, etc. I don't think he understands that you can't just flip a switch with these kids and they will gravitate towards you. I know he is trying, and I appreciate that, but it's too little too late. I have tried to be supportive and understand them having a father is important, but I honestly don't think they want him. Again, they are both under 10 and young. They don't fully understand. My oldest asked me on the ride home if they could never go back. When I explained that we are both parents, love them, and want to spend equal time with them, both children protested. I think my soon-to-be ex-husband realizes this is too little, too late. He is regretful. I don't know how to make this situation easier for everyone, but honestly, it's not my problem to solve. I asked him to take a 35-65 split, but he rejected it, saying it wasn't enough time with the children. My suggestion of that split wasn't about me wanting more. It was about what I thought our children could handle. He just wanted to win and get me to convert to a 50-50 split. Well, you won. Here it is. How's that working out for you? Maybe if you would have thought about what was best for them and not defeating me, maybe this would have ended differently. A summer situation. After his breakdown, I didn't contact him for a while. I knew he needed time to cool off, and if I talked to him for any reason, I was afraid he would get angry with me or, even worse, confide in me. I wanted neither. So, when I finally did need to speak to him, he told me, "We need to figure out what we are going to do this summer." What are we doing? We are doing nothing. I was confused. He told me it's going to be impossible for him to handle the kids during the summer while he is working. He said he was barely holding on by a thread as it is now. This isn't a problem we faced in the past, as I'm a teacher and off all summer, so I handle the kids 100% during summer months. I don't think he took the summer into consideration when he demanded 50-50 physical custody. So his suggestion was to enroll the children in a camp when he has them. A camp? So, you want to enroll our children in a camp from 8-6 on the days you have them? How is that spending time with them? So, my suggestion was, let's do the 35-65 split for July and August, and he can have the kids' weekends and see them in the evening whenever he wants. He was furious. "It's always about custody with you," he said. Wait. This isn't about custody. You just said you can't handle them. I'm offering to give up the first real summer vacation I've ever had to keep them to help you, and I'm the bad guy here? Make this make sense. He claims the kids need to socialize. In the past 9 years, he has never cared if the children socialized. But now it's a big deal? This was the man who rolled his eyes and complained about having to go to a kid's birthday party for 3 hours. So, I left it alone. Let him sit on the thought for a bit. A few days later, to be proactive, I sent him information about summer camps, along with price lists. It would cost between $250 and $350 a week for camp. The camps I found are only for 5 weeks, leaving most of August without childcare for him. How does this help? How is this spending time with the kids? Putting our children in an expensive weekly camp during COVID, just so you can give them dinner, bath, and put them to bed, doesn't help them or your relationship with them. My family owns a house by the beach. I will be down there most of the summer with the kids. When I'm home, we have friends we can visit, and at least we have a yard at our house for the children to play in. The children will be happy, socialize with family and friends, and most importantly, be safer with me than in a camp. Lastly, I will add that he has yet to pay me child support for April and May. He moved out in March, took the kids for 8 overnights in April. It should have been 15, and has yet to give me a dime for April and May. But he can afford almost $1,300 in camp fees just to have his custody? Even more proof that his actions are not about what's best for the kids. It's just a competition with me. Again, make this make sense. Get the papers. The papers. I'm officially in the court system, with a docket number and everything. It's on its way to becoming official, and I am elated. My soon-to-be ex-husband does not seem that excited. This past weekend, he flew out to her state and attended a family wedding as her guest. I'm happy they are taking these steps as a couple, because if they are happy, he will move, and the farther away he is, the better. When he returned, he was now excited about the divorce, asking me when the lawyer would send him paperwork to sign and what the timeline was moving forward. He was on cloud 9 after his vacation and wished to hurry the process up. The day he was having his share of paperwork notarized was also the day I was going to pick up the children from him. When I got there, he was short with me. I could tell he was on the verge of a panic attack. He hurried us away and then texted me later, explaining he, in fact, was in the beginning stages of a panic attack. But why? He told me he was feeling overwhelmed. Between the kids, work, managing a household, and maintaining a social life, he felt burnt out. Wow, this sounds oddly familiar. This was my story for the past 10 years. The reason I didn't go on date nights as often as he liked was for this exact reason. Part of me felt bad because I know what that feeling is like, but another part of me relished the thought of his struggling and coming to the realization that that was my life and reason for his cheating. So, how should I react? After I took a second to think, I blurted, "Wow, that sucks. I'm taking the kids to the beach this weekend. See you Monday morning when you pick them up." I decided to give him the support he gave me for 10 years. If anyone knows what movie this post's title is from, then you know, you gotta do what your heart tells you to do. D-Day Sunday. It's happening. The day I've been waiting for, and he has been dreading. I'm going to meet the girlfriend. I'm honestly excited. He, on the other hand, is in a panic. And I understand why. I exploded on that woman over the phone and said some terrible things. And I also understand it's going to be hard for him to hide his lies about me being insane when we are face to face. He texted me a few days ago and told me that he would be picking the boys up on Father's Day to head down the shore with them, and she would be accompanying them. When they come to pick up the boys, we can have a chat. I'm fine with that. I'm actually relieved he wasn't planning on taking the boys to the shore alone. I don't think he can handle them both on the boardwalk or in arcades. He is very worried that I will cause a scene when I meet her. It's actually the exact opposite. I plan on being myself, very friendly and welcoming. I need her to see I'm not the emotional woman that I was on the phone and in my letter. I mentioned to him via text that I would not jeopardize the good relationship he and I have recently had with each other and co-parenting by being mean to her. His exact words were, "I don't need you to speak about what you and I have." But why? Why wouldn't the fact that we are getting along and co-parenting be something she shouldn't know? And then I remembered, he lies. He must be telling her I'm impossible, that I'm a terrible human being, that I'm difficult and unreasonable. How can he make this lie hold water if I'm polite and friendly to her and him? The boys have each made something for him, and I got a small gift from the boys to give him. We will present him with those things in front of her. I feel like if I saw someone who was supposed to be cruel and insane do that to their enemy, I'd have questions as well. Also, I plan on packing snacks for the boys and him for the trip. This is something I'd do whether she was there or not. Are those the acts of a crazy and hateful person? I think not. Lastly, and some of you may not agree with this, I'm going to apologize for how I spoke to her. I know she was wrong for what she did, and if she ever wants to apologize, I'd listen. But I'm not proud of how I spoke to her on the phone. That was the worst side of me. I think she understands my actions, but my apology is not to get on her good side. I want to be the bigger person. I don't plan on ever being friends with this woman, but she will be left alone with my children at some point, so I'm doing this for them. Also, my selfish motive. If she is happy and feels comfortable with my soon-to-be ex-husband, she will want him to move out of state with her. I want this, so I won't do anything to jeopardize this move. I will update you all on Sunday evening with a play-by-play of our meet. My strange meet cute. Since my last post, my head has been swimming. I spent so many months envisioning this moment, and now that it is here, all the scenarios I've run in my head seem like cheesy movie scenes. None of it is plausible. I finally decided yesterday not to go into this meetup trying to prove who I am to someone, but more so, just to be myself and stop worrying about the impression that I leave on her. She has an opinion of me that is clouded by his lies, so there is no sense in trying to change her mind. So, I asked myself, who am I? And then I remembered that before this whole fiasco, I was the person who killed with kindness. While that kindness was manipulated by my soon-to-be ex-husband, I was the one who was in control now. So, I did what I thought was right. My children made Father's Day cards for him, and then I had them make cards for her. I had them introduce themselves and list one thing they'd like to do with her. They drew pictures and colored, and all was right in the world. Kill them with kindness. I texted him last night asking what time was pickup. He was at dinner and said he would text me back when they were done. I woke up at 6:30 with no text from him. I texted him at 6:30, 7:30, 8, and finally received word back from him just before 9. Be there in an hour. Okay, now that that is settled, what do I wear? I opted for the true-to-myself outfit. Leggings, flip-flops, and a cute off-the-shoulder shirt. Very me. Hair, curly. Makeup, light but with a generous amount of mascara. It was now 9:40, so we sat and waited. The boys grew antsy. At 10:30, I get a text that his stomach is upset, so they ran a little late. Sounds like a case of nerves to me. Then, just before 11, they arrive. I assemble the boys and the gifts, and we come outside. There she is, right there, standing on my steps. For a hot second, I raged inside. I wanted to say something smart like, "You left me for this?" I looked over at him, and the look of panic and tension on his face told me that by doing that, I'd be the monster he has fictitiously talked about. So, I went back to my motto of kindness, extended my hand, smiled warmly, and introduced myself. She was shocked. Where is this lunatic I've heard so much of? Why isn't she trying to claw out my eyes? I can only imagine what was running through her head. The boys presented their gifts to Dad and then gave her the cards. Shock took her over again. Cards that aren't death threats? How? Why? At this point, her mood went from fear to pure embarrassment. I must say, it was more delicious to watch that shift than it was to potentially pull her hair out. We hustled the boys into the car, and as my soon-to-be ex-husband walked to the other side of the car to get them in, I turned to her. Shock and fear had returned to her face. She had difficulty making eye contact with me. I could hear my soon-to-be ex-husband's heart beating from 10 feet away. I looked at her and said, "I just want to apologize for how I first spoke to you. I was an emotional wreck, but I said some terrible things, and that was very unlike me. I know my actions were justified, but reflecting back on that day, I'm unhappy with how I acted towards you." Hello, Shock. Have you met our dear friend Guilt? A wave of guilt took over her as she bumbled through her own half-hearted apology. She couldn't say the word affair. Instead, she said, "What happened?" Own it, girl. Just own it. But she did end her nonsensical word vomit wishing to have a conversation with me about what transpired. I used the word transpired. Most of her words were less than 2 syllables. My soon-to-be ex-husband, who had started to look relieved, now tensed at the idea of her and I having a chat. I have already promised myself I won't speak badly of him to her. Maybe I'll just give her a link to this thread instead. Haha. Now I look forward to her spending 48 hours with him and our kids. Now, she can see the short temper and lack of patience he has. It is going to be very hard for him to keep up his Father of the Year act. I'm sure my children will give me a play-by-play of how their visit went. I will update you all on Wednesday when the children have returned. Today was a big day, but I'm proud of my growth.